New York City has an Office of Emergency Management. It's over here on the west side. It's a great bunker, which the city...
Ironically, it's located in the World Trade Center complex, although not in the Twin Towers.
Just
right next door.
North of the Trade Towers,
right.
in the World Trade Center, in the other northern World Trade Center there. And on an occasion like this is not one they absolutely anticipate when they get going. They're talking very concerned with chemical and biological warfare. They've got extensive plans about that, which they very often demonstrate to the press. I'm going to interrupt myself and everybody else for a second because one of our senior producers, Mark Obenhaus, is on the phone, and he saw the incident. Mark, you hear me?
I do indeed, Peter.
Go ahead.
Well, I was leaving my house to go to work, and I walked down the street to go to the subway. I was at the corner of Franklin and West Broadway, and as I was approaching the subway, a tremendous roar went over my head, and I looked up immediately, and it was a plane, and much lower than I've ever seen a plane in Lower Manhattan, and it was a large plane. I couldn't identify it as anything specific except that it was a commercial jet, certainly. And then my eyes followed it because this is approximately 15 blocks from the World Trade Center, and it just slammed right into it and was completely engulfed by the building. It was extraordinary. No wings flew off, nothing like that. It just went directly in, creating this sort of cavern-like hole, and suddenly then big flames started protruding from it, and then of course smoke, and then debris started just catapulting. And of course the area that we're in, there's a great deal of foot traffic, and people are just approaching and beginning to just gasp at just the sight of the building itself. Even if they hadn't seen it, the actual incident, the actual impact, just the sight of this huge building engulfed in flame with this massive cavernous hole in the side of it. And we stood there, I can't tell you the amount of time, I would estimate to about 15 minutes. And of course there's all kinds of services coming down, fire department and so forth. And then suddenly, from my vantage point, which would be north of the building, the far tower suddenly explodes in flames. Yet again, a similar kind of an event. And I now see, I've run down the street to my home where I have the television on, and I saw that too was another airplane. From our vantage point, you couldn't tell what exactly it was that hit the second tower, but it was a similar, seemingly almost like bomb blast, and with flames and debris protruding wildly from the building.
Mark, let me ask you a couple of more specific questions. You now confirmed for us, I think, that it was the first attack on the tower that you saw.
Yes.
What direction was the aircraft coming from?
It was coming from the north.
It was coming from the north down over Manhattan itself?
Yes. It would have been flying roughly over the west side. I'm on, as I say, West Broadway, which is probably a quarter mile from the river. So it was on a direct path north, from the north, into the North Tower.
Do you remember whether it had 2 engines, 3 engines, or 4 engines?
I do not. It was very quick. It struck me, the profile, the body of the plane was of such scale that I immediately identified it as a commercial jet. It happened so quickly I couldn't tell whether it had windows on the side or what. It could very well have been some sort of a transport plane, but it was a large plane. As opposed to occasionally down here you do see smaller prop planes or smaller aviation stuff that flies around here, sometimes doing movies and things like that. But in all my years down here, and I've lived down here for about 20 years within walking distance easily of the building, I've never heard anything like this, and that's why I just immediately glanced up and just followed the track of this sound and this huge plane that was swooping over my head.
Could you see any markings on it whatsoever?
No, I did not. It was too quick. I can't give you any kind of identifying help on what it was.
Do you remember what color it was?
My impression was that it had a tan coloration to it. However, the sun, it was very low in the horizon, and I think kind of orange, and it may have been simply the color of the sun reflecting off a silver exterior. I really am not sure of that.
Okay, Mark. Anything else? What's the mood in the environment down there at the moment? As if it's not hard to imagine.
And everyone who glimpses it close up. It's quite different seeing it from the ground than on these television pictures that I'm now looking at, because it's close to you and you see what the impact must have been like, and you see the kind of devastation that has incurred by the buildings, and it's just frightening is perhaps even too mild a word.
Okay.
It's absolutely just a horrible, horrible sight. It reminds you of the worst kind of effects in movies that, you know, you're reassured watching a movie that it's an effect, but this is not.
Well, Mark, you and I were supposed to have a meeting not long from now.
Hi, this is Captain. I would like to order the main TDM. We're on the board and going back to the airport and we have our demand, so please remain quiet. Okay, it's United 93 calling. United 93, understand you have a bomb on board? Go ahead. Executive 956, did you understand that transmission? Affirmative, he said there was a bomb on board. And that was all you got out of it also? Affirmative. 93, go ahead. That aircraft you can't get a hold of, has he turned to the east now? He's just turned to the east also. United 93, you're here, Cleveland Center.
Saw it go absolutely, totally, almost as he described it, into the building itself. And we now have had one of the enormous difficulties about terrorism, everybody knows, is that you almost immediately get a claim of responsibility, and you may get several, and people's suspicions get ramped up given the obvious nature of people who they think are or know are involved in terrorism around the world. There has been a claim of responsibility, according to the Reuters news agency, made to Abu Dhabi television in the Persian Gulf from something called the Palestinian DFLP. The Palestinian DFLP is something called the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine. It has been for many, many years one of the most militant of the Palestinian organizations, has been involved in violence before, has been involved in other actions before, and it is the first organization to claim responsibility for this, though we have to caution you in all the obvious ways that before the day is over, there may be any number of people who claim responsibility. The White House, of course, has leapt to the forefront of people's concern this morning, and there is a plane circling the White House at the moment, and they're clearing the grounds there. That's a report which may be misleading in that it may presume an attack, whereas we just discovered a moment ago that what we had with an additional airplane in New York airspace was a security operation. I think probably most Americans know that there is no building in the country which has heavily defended, I shouldn't say deemed secure, but a battery of anti-aircraft missiles on the top of the White House itself. We've had an incident, as you know, in the past, several years ago.
We are breaking into the special live coverage of what's happening at the World Trade Center in New York to tell you about something going on right here at the Pentagon. You are looking at both pictures. The smoke that you see on the left-hand side of your screen is right here in the Washington area at the Pentagon.
Looks like the helipad area of the Pentagon over towards 395. There were reports of an explosion. People said the building shook. They felt the building shake, and they're evacuating that building. We're also getting word that the White House may be under an evacuation order right now. Again, we don't know exactly what happened here at the Pentagon, but you can see the result of whatever it was near the area of the heliport is lots of billowing smoke, dark smoke, and workers reported hearing something and then feeling the area rumble. What do you hear, Tom? There is construction work going on there.
We don't know what is the cause of this smoke, but we are keeping you updated on this story, and of course the breaking story in New York where one of two planes we're now hearing that crashed into the World Trade Center was hijacked after takeoff from Boston.
On the left.
On the left is the Pentagon, and on the right is the World Trade Center, where reports now from AP say that one of the two planes that crashed into the World Trade Center towers was hijacked after takeoff.
President Bush has called the World Trade Center explosions apparent terrorist attacks. Again, on the left of your screen.
Now we're hearing that the Associated Press is quoting witnesses as saying it was an aircraft that crashed into the Pentagon. And that is what we're looking at right now from Arlington, Virginia. Our Gannett cam looking at this huge billowing dark smoke. A plane.
So we got two planes that plowed into the World Trade Center up in New York. Now we've got a plane that plowed into the Pentagon here in Arlington. Stay with us. We're going to get you more information just as soon as we can. Apparently, the Pentagon being evacuated.
There are reports that the White House may be under an evacuation order as well. The West Wing of the White House has been evacuated, according to AP, amid terrorist threats. That's the AP News alert just moved across the wires.
The Pentagon, this is a live shot from the Gannett camera atop the Gannett building in Roslyn of the Pentagon. You can't see the Pentagon for all the smoke.
And again, just word that the West Wing of the White House has been evacuated amid terrorist threats. And of course, the other story, the picture you see on the right is the World Trade Center still spewing smoke from the two planes that crashed into the towers.
We have no word yet of casualties either here at the Pentagon or in New York.
But we did have some eyewitness reports of people on the ground from the spray of jet fuel on fire on the ground.
It's not going to be good. Dave Staff.
Been temporarily evacuated, but that is as much as we know for sure at the moment. John Miller, go back to what you're hearing on your nets.
Actually, it's interesting. In New York City, they're reporting on what we're seeing here also, essentially trying to tell everybody that heightened security is important now.
John, I apologize. There's a lot of us here. What are we listening to there? Say again. Say again, please. Come here, John. Good. Try to correct. So we have bomb squads.
I think you're going to see a lot of this, and I think we were talking about this a few minutes ago. In fact, when I was telling you that in New York they were evacuating the municipal building, the United Nations, Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's residence, all potential targets, I suggested to you that shortly in Washington you'll probably be seeing the same kind of reaction at sensitive symbolic locations. And apparently that's become more than a concern, but perhaps a reality.
Okay, we do know, or at least the Associated Press is now reporting, that an aircraft crashed near the Pentagon, and the West Wing of the White House, as Claire Shipman told us, was evacuated amid these threats of terrorism. I guess first of all, let me go to another eyewitness. ABC's Bill Blakemore, one of our senior reporters, has been an eyewitness to the New York incident. Bill, you on the phone?
Yes, I am, Peter.
Go ahead.
I'm down at 12th Street. It looks like we're more than a mile north of this very surrealistic site, and business has completely come to a stop here. Looks like throughout lower Manhattan, people standing in the streets. Cell phones aren't working. A few of these phone booths, such as I'm talking to you from now, are working. One man, just shaking his head, said to me a few moments ago, I was supposed to be at a meeting in the building at 10:30 this morning, and then I saw the second plane hit the tower in this flash of light. There's a complete cessation of regular life. There's one delivery man standing here looking like he doesn't know where to go with this stack of beer crates. So all of lower Manhattan is just standing in the streets on this sunny morning looking at this unrealistic sight in front of us, this gray smoke coming out of the Trade Center.
Okay, Bill, talk to as many people as you can. Call us back when you can.
Was a plane that crashed at the Pentagon, and the Pentagon is being evacuated.
I want to let you know we're going to get back to ABC's special coverage, but we ourselves, what started in New York is now happening in Washington. We want to get more into that this morning.
That's right. I'm Carol Costello. Don Hudson. We want to go live to Sam Ford right now. He is live at Reagan National Airport with an update on the air crash at the Pentagon. Sam Ford, tell us what you can.
Well, Carol, as you can see, there's this huge cloud of smoke behind me, and that is the location of the Pentagon. We had come here to National Airport to, continue our coverage of the situation in New York because the airports had been shut down.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I don't know what to say. There's 3 guys. They've hijacked the plane. I'm trying to be calm. We're turned around. and I've heard that there's planes that's been flown into the World Trade Center. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.